If you don't know who I am, I'm Steve Troyer. I spent 22 years in public education, 15 of those were as a school administrator, and the last 5 were as a public school superintendent in Indiana. I'm the founder of Willow Run Group and EdLeader AI. I help school leaders integrate AI into their day-to-day work to help free them up to do the things that only they can do. Let's get started. Today we're talking about the year-end letter to families. That's one of the things that I'd put off every year until the last possible minute. Not because it's long, but because it has to sound authentic and it has to sound like me. Families can spot an AI generated form letter in one sentence, and the year-end note is the one piece of mail where that matters most. So it's the last thing that most of us would ever fully hand off to AI. If it comes back sounding like ChatGPT wrote it, people will immediately dismiss it. The fix for this is actually quite simple, and it's the whole focus of today's episode. So here we are in our actual project folder, and you can see I've created a new folder called Parent Communication. This is where we're going to put the files for the workflow that we're going to do today. I have dropped in there a handful of files. There's a couple letters that capture my voice that I have written previously. And that's going to include my end of year letter from last year. And it's also going to include my welcome back letter from this previous August that I sent out. I also provided a document that outlines some of the highlights from the 25-26 school year. And I created a document in which I identified a few things that we can call out to, that we're looking forward to for the next school year. And the last file that I dropped in here is a sample output letter. And that's just going to help Claude to kind of capture and put into a correct format how I want my letters to look like. If you don't have some of that information, don't hesitate to ask Claude to help you draft up a sample. For example, that sample output letter. If you don't have a sample output letter, ask Claude to help you develop one. You can tweak it and modify it however you want, and then have that in there for Claude to reference down the road. So at this point, the prompt is pretty simple. Hey Claude, go ahead and draft this year's end of year letter to families. Match the tone of the letters that are in the parent communications folder that I provided you. And if you would please use the highlights for the specific moments that I've outlined in that folder. Also, if you would close the letter out with a look ahead to next fall, make it about 400 words. I want to take a minute and just walk you through some of the thinking here. As I fired off that prompt, Claude began working. It read the 6 files, came back and said, I have everything I need. Tone is clear. I'll note the sample output letter. Also, the brand guide is in the root folder. So it goes in and it checks the brand guide to look for style constraints. It says, hey, I've got everything I need. Voice is clear and consistent. I'll write the letter in a Word document, and then it goes and develops the file. Now, the cool thing about Cowork is if you had this connected, for example, to your Google Drive, you could specify, hey, I want you to create this document as a Google Doc rather than a Microsoft document. You could also have it export as a PDF. We've done that in previous episodes. So all of those tools are on the table. As we scroll down through here, this is the final output that it gave us. And you'll see here that we've got a nicely put together letter that you can copy and paste into your letterhead. The other thing you could do is provide it letterhead in here in your project folder and ask it to put it on your letterhead. So those are all options to help make this workflow more robust and to help tailor it to exactly what you need. But long story short, the letter that it came up with is well written. It's in your voice. And, the bottom line is that it takes something that would have taken us, a couple of years ago, maybe even a half hour to an hour to put together and proofread and really get your thoughts around. And it takes that down to about 5 minutes. So not to belabor the point too much, but I just want to show you a quick example of why I keep harping on context and why I think it is the most important thing that you can do when you're interacting with AI. So I gave ChatGPT just a generic prompt. I'm a public school superintendent at Maple Ridge Community Schools. If you'd put together a letter that I can send home to families, it kind of wraps up the year, tells them to have a great summer, and sets them up for a return in the fall. And this is what it came up with. This is a well-written letter, actually, but there's nothing specific about it. So obviously, this is a perhaps a dramatized example here, but you can see well-written article or well-written letter, but no specifics. Okay, it does reference Maple Ridge Community Schools, and it talks about the good things that happened this year, but none of that is specific. Versus the letter on the left talks specifically about a community of 2,400 kids. It talks about the new K-5 reading program. It talks about how our AP scores climbed, the middle school having an HVAC project, those kinds of things. So again, providing AI that specificity, that context, and that background information will just dramatically improve the output that you're getting back. That's the point. If anything comes from this series, I want you to understand how you can really, really improve that output that you get back by providing the context. So once you get a system set up like this, it isn't going to be just the year-end letter. You can continue to give it more of your writing, and the voice is going to continue to get better and better and closer to you. Provide it 3 or 4 of your past notes, your letters, parent communications, etc., and it's going to get close enough to you that, quite honestly, it could potentially feel a little bit eerie. Continue to use that same folder for all of your parent communication, the weekly newsletter, a recap of a board meeting that just happened last week, a note that a superintendent would need to send out, but you never have time to draft. All of those things can start in the folder and be written in your voice rather than you having to start from a blank page. And if you write to your families a lot, then you can save this whole thing as a skill. There are a few honest things that I feel like I need to mention because this is where the communication that you develop ultimately matters most. You're sending it out into the community. Remember, when you use AI, it's creating for you a draft. You're going to want to read every line, and you're going to want to change the things that don't feel quite right or don't feel like they're written in your voice. You are putting your signature on it. AI is going to help you to get a great start. It's going to take you off of the blank page, and it's going to get you most of the way there. But it still doesn't replace your judgment about the things that ultimately you're saying to the community. If it has to do with family communication, the last thing that you're going to want to do is let AI produce it and ultimately send it out without you having some type of oversight over what's being sent. So those are the 3 workflows. We've done 3 of them that are real things that you can implement this week. The free starter pack at edleaderai.com has an additional 3. If you want to grab the whole set, that's fine too. The whole playbook is there. I'll say this part once because it's true. Setting these up by yourself the first time, there's going to be a learning curve there. Helping districts build these systems so they actually stick is the work that I'm doing now. Send me a message if you ever want a hand implementing these kinds of systems into your daily work. Most of all, though, I hope you just go try one. The letter, the meeting prep, the policy explainer, just pick one and run it this week. That's the whole point of what we've been doing. We've got one more special episode coming where I'm going to walk you through how to set up your context to significantly improve the output that you're getting from AI. If you haven't subscribed yet, hit that subscribe button as it really helps out the channel. I hope that you have a great time trying out these workflows in Claude Cowork. I think they're going to provide tremendous value to you. And if you have some success stories, please let me know. Join us next time where we're going to talk about setting up your context. It's going to make a huge difference. We'll see you then.